American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays come down. Throw it all away. Throw it all away.
Welcome to another episode of American Timelines. I'm Amy, and that's Joe.
That's right. I convinced Amy to come back, everybody. Those of you who've been pissed that I keep putting out other content, like Friend Check and other stuff, everybody's pissed.
Everybody is probably pissed.
Everybody has to get pissed to listen to me reunite with middle school friends and people from college. But there's some good stories in there, y'all.
Yeah. Well, my life has been kind of turned upside down, so...
Yes, Amy has been very upset and stressed and
it's work-related
overwhelmed.
stress, so it's not anything deadly, but...
it's like they've
craziness.
been effing with her and making her do all kinds of work, and she's having a rough time.
Yes.
So she works around the clock. That's what teachers do. They make no money, and they work around the clock.
Yeah.
And it's wrong.
It is.
It's wrong.
Because I don't mind doing the work, but I would love to get paid a living wage that we wouldn't have to live paycheck to paycheck.
Well, and to be able to work regular hours and have some time off once in a while.
Yeah.
But to have to work on all of your days off just to
Keep
up,
it's ridiculous.
it's not okay.
I know.
It's not okay, bruh.
All right. Anyway, welcome everybody.
That's
I'm
America.
happy to be here.
Yeah.
And
I know you guys are happy to listen to her because her soothing voice is the only thing that keeps anyone listening.
I don't know about that.
And just know, folks, you haven't seen her, but she's beautiful too. Boom.
Well, thank you, babe.
But we are now jumping into 1942.
Yes.
And one thing I'm going to do to take a little bit of burden off of Amy these next few months, because it's rough for her, is on top of the Friend Check episodes, which I got a bunch banked, I'm still working on editing. It's hard for me to squeeze everything back into 1 year like we used to do because there's so many things. I like to do so many deep dives. I'm interested in all this stuff. So I'm going to do a couple deep dives separately from these yearly podcast episodes with guests. I've had a couple of people reach out to me who are into World War II and they want to talk about some of this stuff. And rather than just glossing over it, I'm going to do some side deep dive episodes, maybe 20-minute, 30-minute episodes on just some of the stuff that we don't have time to just cover. So I'm going to just gloss over some of my stuff. Amy's going to tell a fun, cool murder story, and we'll go through 1942.
Let's do it.
Just to give you a feel for what's happening in 1942. As we talk about every time we get to a new year, there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't have like specific dates. So I'm going to talk about some of those things. In 1942, the BBC banned the song Deep in the Heart of Texas during work hours because its infectious melody might cause wartime factory workers to neglect their tools while they clapped in time with the song.
The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas.
Yes, I knew that what you saying. So they had to ban it because everyone was clapping and messing up their wartime factory work.
That's funny.
Franklin D. Roosevelt proposed a maximum income for people. He wanted there to be a maximum.
Can we get back to that, please?
You know what his proposal was? $25,000.
Well, I mean, we'd have to see what that is in today's money.
I'll tell you what it is.
It probably is fine.
It's equivalent to roughly $350,000 today.
That'd be fine.
Yeah, nobody needs more than that. What do you need more than $350,000 for?
A year.
I mean,
every year.
What do you need? When is it enough for you people?
I mean, I would be fine
billionaires.
if we had people with a million.
Sure.
Millionaires. That would be fine. But billionaires shouldn't exist. That is hoarding on a level that would be a shameful thing. If it was anything else but money,
right?
We would have them on a show,
and
sit there and look at them and be like, "What the fuck?"
If you had 1 billion pieces of paper, they'd call you a paper hoarder.
Yeah.
I just saw a piece of paper. That's why. If you had 1 billion Oreos, they'd say there's something wrong with you.
Your problems.
Share your cookies.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There's people that go hungry, and we can
fix that.
We can fix it. But
one of those billionaires could fix
it all.
Could fix it all.
And they just don't want to.
It's weird.
The Ball Atop One Times Square started in 1907.
Did you see, real quick?
Yeah.
There's an old lady, billionaire.
Lived in a shoe?
No, she just died, and she donated $2.3 billion, I think, to a medical school for the rest of its existence. Everyone goes free of charge.
Oh, cool.
That is what you should do with your
What
billions.
medical school? Because let's go there and get medical degrees.
Like we could.
Why not?
Come on.
It might be in our town. Free medical
in New
degree.
York,
I could be a X-ray technician and help pull things out of people's butts. That's what I have a friend who's an X-ray technician, and he seems to only be spending his time pulling things out of people's butts.
And it's weird that he uses his teeth. I
It
don't
is
know why.
weird.
That's
it's weird.
excessive.
And they often tell him, "Sir, you're not at work right now. Get out of here."
Yeah.
Okay. The ball atop One Times Square started in 1907. Did you know that?
What are you talking
The
about?
Times Square, the ball dropping thing for New Year's.
Oh, yeah, in New York.
It started way back in 1907 as 100 incandescent light bulbs on a wood and iron structure hoisted with a rope. The ball drop tradition has been observed yearly ever since, except in 1942 and 1943. They decided
The blackout.
Yep, in observance of wartime blackout, so they decided not to do it.
Yeah.
A lot of things were fucked up in 1942 because of the war. Three Musketeers bars originally had 3 smaller chocolate bars. It wasn't just one bar.
Oh.
There was a chocolate, a strawberry, and a vanilla, kind of like a Neapolitan thing. In 1942, the strawberry and vanilla flavors were cut due to increased production costs due to sugar rationing.
Yeah.
So they never went back, I guess.
Oh, wow.
There's a 1942 song that holds a record for the longest song title.
Ooh.
By Hoagy Carmichael. You ever heard of it? You want to know what it is?
What is it?
The name of the song is I'm a cranky old Yank in a clanky old tank on the streets of Yokohama with my Honolulu mama doing those Beto, Flato, and Myceto Hirohito blues.
Come on.
That's the name of the
That's a
song.
paragraph.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
You want to hear what it sounds like?
Sure.
I'm a cranky old Yank in a cranky old tank, and I'm heading for a
I love it.
I'll be riding my tank through
It just sounds like cartoon music.
Yeah.
I'm an army buckaroo.
That's what music was back then.
Yeah.
Tacky down in old Nagasaki, I'll be singing like a wacky jackaroo. And you can
Like I just, where's Bugs Bunny?
I think this thing, it's like
mighty tacky when I do.
such a sweet, innocent sound, but all of those people were probably racist as
I
hell.
know.
They probably beat their wives.
It's
were
so deceptive.
Drunk all the time.
Yeah.
That's a funny thing. Not funny thing, but that's a crazy thing about world history. Also, have you ever heard of the word Nimrod?
Yeah.
And somebody calls somebody a Nimrod. It's
Yeah.
like so Bugs Bunny is responsible for making that an insult.
Ha.
So the word Nimrod comes from a biblical figure, King Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter. And it was a compliment before, but it now means a stupid person because Bugs Bunny sarcastically referred to Elmer Fudd as a Nimrod in a cartoon. Oh, what a Nimrod. Most people didn't get the joke and assumed it meant stupid.
Ha, that's funny.
And he was like
Bugs Bunny and Shakespeare, they both just coined so many
they
things.
changed the culture.
They did.
Yeah.
They sure did.
According to a poll conducted by Gallup in 1942, 48% of Americans approved of Canada and the U.S. becoming a single country.
Wait a minute.
Almost half.
48% of Americans. Say it again.
48% of Americans approved of Canada and the U.S. becoming one country.
Oh, okay. That's weird. That would be
Yeah.
a huge country.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like close to the size of, well, that would be bigger than Russia probably, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not very good with sizes. A Lakota Native American.
That's not what she said.
No, yeah, she knows.
That's what she knows.
So here's a sad thing about 1942. There was a Lakota Native American named Dewey Beard. He was the last survivor of the Battle of Little Bighorn and the Wounded Knee massacres, only to have his homeland confiscated again from him in 1942 so that the U.S. Department of War could use it for a gunnery range. So
Oh my God.
isn't that awful and terrible?
And of course, there's no happy ending to that, I'm sure.
Oh no, and that's the one I'm going to do a deep dive. I'm going to do a separate episode about Dewey Beard, along with Audie Murphy, do you know who that is?
I've heard of that.
The most decorated American soldier in the Second World War. In 1942,
Oh, wow.
he falsified his age to 18 to join the army, and until 1945, he participated in battles of Sicily, Salerno, Anzio, and Rome, and also in southern France and other regions.
How old was he?
That's what we'll get into in the special deep dive.
you're not gonna
Audie
say?
Murphy and Dewey Beard. No, we'll get into that. But that was a common thing. There's another guy we're going to talk about in a little bit who was, I think, 12 that's fought in World War II, and we'll get into that later in this episode. But we're going to talk about Audie Murphy because there's a lot about
Yeah.
Audie Murphy and a lot about Dewey Beard. So my friend Hunter Brame, who's a World War II buff, and I are going to do a deep dive on those two fellas. So that way we don't have to gloss over them and feel bad about it. And there we go.
Awesome.
As we're brushing over 1942, Walt Disney helped the Army design a Mickey Mouse gas mask in the 40s to make chemical warfare less frightening to kids.
Oh, bless.
Yeah.
And it's always something that we're traumatizing our children about.
Yeah, how could you?
Now it's school, it's lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, having a special needs class during your typical lockdown drills
Yeah, that's difficult.
is, well, and the saddest part now is they are perfect for it. They've done it so often that it doesn't set them off anymore.
Yeah, kids are ready for it
And
now.
so I just grab the basket of fidgets and we'll go in the corner in the dark and I plop it down in the middle of them and let them just have at it with the fidgets.
It's almost the point where I'm guessing if there is a shooting in schools, kids are not affected, right? Because they're so used to it. Seems
Oh my
like.
God! Yes, they're affected.
I'm sure, of course, they'll be affected, but it's like they're so used to the drills. I would think they wouldn't be. Not that they're not affected, but they're probably like, "Oh yeah, just another shooting." So every time somebody says to me, "Hey, did you hear about the shooting?" Which one? Still,
I
say
know.
that. Yeah. Anyway, Nutella was invented in World War II because of
It
chocolate.
was?
Yeah, because of chocolate rations.
Oh,
So they made Nutella.
Has
Something
hazelnut in it.
Yeah, something that tasted like chocolate but wasn't quite chocolate.
I didn't know it was that old.
another-
Seems like it was a common
Yeah,
or like a
I thought it
recent
was newer.
fad.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I had no idea it was that old either. And Coca-Cola also created a soda.
With cocaine in it.
No, they did for the World War II because there was Coca-Cola syrup. It was difficult to import
Yes.
into Nazi Germany during World War II due to a trade embargo. So Coca-Cola created Fanta.
Oh, the orange.
Yeah.
And I think there's a grape one too, I think.
Is there? Yeah, well, I think orange is probably the only one that I'm not sure, but they created that because of all that difficulty with
Yeah. With getting the Coke.
the syrup and all
Cola.
that. The Declaration of Independence was moved during World War II to protect it in case of World War coming to the
U.S.
U.S.
Mm-hmm.
It spent World War II in Fort Knox, placed in a box and sealed with lead
Oh, wow.
because you couldn't, have that happen. Get stolen because once you steal the Declaration of Independence, there's no more freedom.
And there's no way to know what it said. When
Yeah,
it's
there's no
stolen.
way to know. You got to refer back to it. The Skeleton Lake of Roopkund. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Is a British. We maybe should do a deep dive on this one. The Skeleton Lake of Roopkund is a story of a British forest guard in India made an alarming discovery some 16,000 feet above sea level. At the bottom of a small valley, there was a frozen lake full of skeletons.
Ew.
They were the remains of a 19th century AD party killed by a freak hailstorm.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? That's what they figured out.
So
it
they
was,
just
I guess.
left them laying there? Like nobody buried these people?
Well, I think the whole civilization was killed.
Oh
like
my
I think everybody that
God.
was there. Like,
By a hailstorm.
yeah, I guess that's what that's.
I wonder how
I
you
should do
figure
a deep
that
dive.
out.
I was going to look into that and I didn't because I'm trying to keep this
God
quick.
damn you.
The Oregon State Beavers defeated the Duke Blue Devils 20-16 in the 28th Rose Bowl game. Normally, the Rose Bowl is played in California, Pasadena. Mm-hmm. It's always there. There's a Rose Bowl stadium there.
Yeah.
This time, the game was moved to the Blue Devils' home stadium in Durham, North Carolina, due to fears about Japanese attack on the U.S. West Coast.
Oh.
Couldn't do anything on the West Coast because it was too close.
Well, and the Nazis made it to Florida. Did you ever hear that story?
No,
Yeah, Nazis made it to Florida.
I had no
In a
idea.
submarine, I think.
Maybe that's what's wrong with Florida.
Yeah.
The comedy film The Man Who Came to Dinner, starring Betty Davis,
Mm-hmm.
Ann Sheridan, Monty Woolley, and Jimmy Durante, premiered at the Strand Theater on January 1st, in New York City
Okay.
of 1942. January 8th was a Thursday. Stephen Hawking was born in Oxford, England. That's not American, but
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking was very influential.
True.
January 15th, 1942, President Roosevelt sent a letter to Baseball Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis. That's his name. The baseball commissioner was Kennesaw Mountain Landis, and he said that baseball should continue in wartime. I honestly feel that it would be best for the country to keep baseball going, Roosevelt wrote. There will be fewer people unemployed. And everybody will
Yeah.
work longer hours and harder than ever before. And that means they ought to have a chance for recreation
Yeah.
and for taking their minds off of work even more than before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what sports are for, after all, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess for some people. I couldn't care less about them, but
Yeah. You know about Carole Lombard?
yeah.
What about her? Well, like, what do you know
She
about
was
Carole
married
Lombard?
to Clark Gable,
Okay.
and she died tragically.
You knew that?
Yeah.
Do you know any of the, like, hubbub about her possibly faked her death?
No.
Well, there's weird stuff about this. So
She was beautiful.
she was beautiful. When the U.S. entered World War II, Carole Lombard traveled to her home state of Indiana for a war bond rally with her mother and Clark Gable's press agent, Otto Winkler. So these war bonds, anytime we went to a movie, they'd always be like, buy war bonds.
She was pretty
What?
young, I
Yeah.
think.
They would try to sell war bonds at movies because
Yeah.
it's all about the war, trying to fund the war. Anyway, yeah, she was. Otto Winkler was Clark Gable's press agent, and he was there with her mother and her. Lombard raised more than $2 million in defense bonds in a single evening.
That's wonderful.
Her party had initially been scheduled to return to Los Angeles by train, but Lombard was eager to reach home more quickly, and so she wanted to travel by air. Her mother and Winkler were afraid of flying and insisted that the group follow the original travel plans. Please, please, please don't put us on this plane, Carole Lombard. But she said, how about we flip a coin, and if I win, we're going to take the plane. If you win, we'll take the train. And she won. So unfortunately, in the early morning hours of January 16th, 1942, Lombard, her mother, and Winkler boarded a transcontinental and Western Air Douglas DST, that's a Douglas sleeper transport aircraft, to return to California. After refueling in Las Vegas, TWA Flight 3 took off at 7:07 p.m. and crashed into Double Up Peak near the 8,300-foot level of Potosi Mountain, 32 statute miles southwest of Las Vegas Airport. All 22 aboard, including Lombard, her mother, Winkler, and 15 U.S. Army soldiers were killed instantly. Lombard was 33.
33, that's right.
The crash's cause was attributed to the flight crew's inability to properly navigate over the mountains surrounding Vegas, and that was also because of the war, because as a precaution against the possibility of enemy Japanese bomber aircraft coming into American airspace from the Pacific, safety beacons normally used to direct night flights had been turned off, leaving the pilot and crew of the TWA flight without visual
Blind.
warnings of the mountains in their path.
Oh, God.
Yes. And so she had filmed a movie called To Be or Not to Be already. In the original cut, her character speaks the line, "What can happen on a plane?" And the line was removed before the movie was released because of that. And there are unsubstantiated rumors that she had flown to Indy the evening before to secretly meet with a palm reader who had warned the star of her imminent death. And then also she had promised to fake her death in 1940. Like she told everybody she was going to do that. And then this happened. So I think maybe we could do a deep dive on that. Somebody probably has already.
Yeah.
But
You all right?
yeah, I don't know why I got. It's like I haven't even
Hiccups
had
or
any
something?
beer. I don't know why I got the hiccups. I love beer. January 17th of 1942, Muhammad Ali was born. But his name wasn't Muhammad Ali.
Cassius Clay.
Cassius Clay. You know where he was born?
Was it like Alabama or someplace in the South?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yep.
Yeah, it was the South. I love Muhammad Ali.
You do?
You saw When We Were Kings, didn't you?
Yeah, you made me watch it.
So good.
And then on February 7th, 1942, on a Saturday, A String of Pearls by Glenn Miller and his orchestra hit
yes.
#1 on Billboard singles chart.
This is a classic.
You know this one?
Yeah, it's just an instrumental.
This was the #1 song on the Billboard charts.
Yeah.
And I can't figure out how to turn it off.
We're just going to listen to the whole thing. The rest of
Listen
the
to it
episode
forever,
will
yeah.
be this.
And then on February 9th, 1942, Carole King, composer and singer-songwriter in Manhattan, New York, was born.
Yes.
Carole King. February 10th, the last civilian car rolled off the assembly line at the River Rouge Ford plant before the company shut down the cars and switched production over to military vehicles, such as service trucks and Jeeps.
Yes.
Reporters and photographers were on hand to document the event. Those are some of the changes that had happened when you're in a world
A
war.
lot of factories did that.
Yeah. A lot of crazy changes because of this.
And war rations, like I don't think our society today would handle war rations
you couldn't.
well.
You could not institute rations. People would not. People hoard.
People
do
are
the
such
opposite.
assholes.
Mm-hmm.
But like they had, you had tickets for so much sugar.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have tickets, you were tough shit.
If
You
there was a
didn't get
rumor
sugar.
that they were going to start rationing tomorrow, everybody would go out and hoard it all. Like toilet paper. Look what happened in the pandemic.
I know.
Anyway, February 19th, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, authorizing the internment of Japanese Americans.
Yeah, that's
a very
awful thing.
Awful, sad
That needs to be a
thing
deep
that
dive.
happened. Yeah, that we probably do need to really talk about it because
For sure.
the U.S. forcibly relocated and incarcerated at least 125,000
That's what Trump wants to
plus people of Japanese descent and 75 identified incarceration sites. Most lived on the Pacific coast in concentration camps in the western interior of the country. Approximately 2/3 of the inmates were United States citizens. 2/3. These actions were initiated by Executive Order 9066 following Imperial Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. Of the 127,000 Japanese Americans who were living in the continental U.S. at the time of the Pearl Harbor attack, 112,000 resided on the West Coast. About 80,000 were second-generation American-born Japanese.
God, they even took the second generation people.
And third generation even.
Oh my God.
The rest were
so
first
it was like,
generation.
I think you have black hair and your eyes are kind of almond shaped. You better go.
Oh yeah, just so much, just complete racism. And everybody thought it was justified because they're scared to death. They've never been in
That's
this
what Trump
situation.
wants to do.
Yeah.
He says.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what to
Mexicans,
immigrants?
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean,
it's going to be the same thing.
yeah. February 25th was a Wednesday of 1942. A mysterious event called the Battle of Los Angeles took place in the early morning hours over Los Angeles, California, when an anti-aircraft artillery barrage was fired into the nighttime sky. Secretary of the Navy Frank Cox called the incident a false alarm, but offered no other information.
Oh my God.
Yeah, nobody has any idea what that was. Was it a UFO? Was it an attack? Was it? Nobody knows.
Oh.
So maybe that's a deep dive, but I
Yeah.
don't know if I can find anything.
Right. I'm sure somebody's written about that.
Yeah. And then February 26th, the 14th Academy Awards were held in L.A. How Green Was My Valley won Best Picture. And its director, John Ford, won his third Oscar for Best Director. I watched that movie and I was really bored.
It was bad.
The 40s are hard to...
I know.
I mean, it wasn't bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't know.
It's a whole
everything.
different
It's
acting
a
style
different
and stuff.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then February 28th, Glenn Miller and his orchestra back to number one again on the Billboard charts with Moonlight Cocktail.
Let's hear this one.
These all remind me of my grandpa.
Oh, yeah. I know
Glenn
this
Miller.
one.
He was just
Yeah.
a Glenn Miller buff.
Oh, yeah. I like that one.
That's dedicated to Roger W. Kirk, baby. Rest in peace, Raj. Anyway, that was Moonlight Cocktail. And then we're jumping into March here, 1942. March 14th, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt sent a proposal to all 48 state governors that speed limits throughout the nation be reduced to 40 miles per hour to conserve
Yes.
rubber.
Oh, rubber.
Rubber, yeah.
Wow.
Can you imagine if it was 40 everywhere?
Oh, no.
You couldn't
That
do
would
it.
drive me nuts.
You couldn't do it. You are a leadfoot.
Oh, it would drive me nuts.
She's a leadfoot, everybody. March 16th, 1942, a tornado outbreak struck a large area of the central and southern U.S. 153 people were killed over the next 2 days.
Oh, my gosh.
That's terrible. And the next day was St. Patrick's Day of 1942. You know what serial killer was born in Chicago? March 17th of 1942?
Was it John Wayne Gacy?
Yes.
Ding, ding.
You know
ding.
your serial killers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then March 25th, Aretha Franklin was born in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
April 3rd, we got Wayne Newton.
All right.
Thank God. Thank God Wayne Newton was born. Yeah, we're going to skip this one. Wait. Because I don't have a date. I forgot to put the date on this one. Anyway, it's about a beheading. So we'll skip that. Maybe I'll do a deep dive on that.
Okay.
On April 13th, 1942, No, I'm going to skip this one too because it's not American. But a tragic accident happened where they were doing a dress rehearsal for kind of an air show for Winston Churchill coming to visit this area.
Oh, is it in England?
Yeah, and on the dress rehearsal, they killed a bunch of spectators because they thought they were like fake people for the dress rehearsal kind of thing. So it was awful. Anyway, Saturday, April 18th, the Toronto Maple Leafs defeated the Detroit Red Wings 3-1 in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals to complete one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. After losing the first 3 games of the series, the Maple Leafs, that's not Leaves, they won the next 4 and claimed their 4th Stanley Cup in franchise history. I don't care about hockey, but Brian McCartney does, if he's listening. April 24th, 1942 is a Friday, and Barbra Streisand comes into the world as a singer, a songwriter, actress, and filmmaker in Brooklyn, New York.
I wouldn't say she came into the world as those
Oh, yes,
things.
she did. She is the greatest American performer in history, according to Don McAllister, local gay guy I know.
All right.
I just love her. Anyway, April 25th, 16-year-old Princess Elizabeth. April 25th, 1942. Princess Elizabeth,
Yes.
as we knew her as the Queen later, she was 16.
Right.
She registered for war service.
Oh.
And so you can get this info just by asking Google. Was Queen Elizabeth a war veteran? So during the war, Elizabeth served as a truck driver, auto mechanic, and honorary colonel.
Wow.
Queen Elizabeth, who died on September 8th of, was it last year?
No, it was a couple of years ago, I think.
She died at the age of 96. She left a legacy of military service. As a teenager, she defied her parents to join the British military during World War II. Now you know that about her.
Yeah.
So there you go. April 27th was a Monday, and a tornado swept through Pryor, Oklahoma, causing extensive damage, leaving 52 dead.
Oh, wow.
April 28th was a Tuesday, and President Roosevelt gave a fireside chat on economic policy and sacrifice, and a Gallup poll indicated that Americans preferred the term World War II for the present conflict,
Oh, okay. So that's when they started calling it that.
as opposed to Flim Flam Shibby Shap. It was the other one they were going
Right.
to call
It was a
it.
close call.
Yeah, but World War II won. May 20th, 1942 was a Wednesday, and the United States Navy signed up its first African-American recruits. Now, that's how you know the war's
Wow.
getting serious.
Yeah.
If they'll let, black people
Yep.
in.
Oh, they weren't in with the white people.
Oh, no,
trust
yeah.
me.
They would be enlisted in general service as well as the messmen branch beginning on June 1st. On February 1st of 1943, more than two-thirds of the 26,909 African-American sailors were messmen, which is basically just the mess hall serving people. you know.
Yeah.
So, of course, racism.
Yeah.
May 30th, Fred Korematsu was arrested on a street corner in San Leandro, California, after being identified as being of Japanese ancestry, despite plastic surgery on his eyelids in an attempt to pass for Caucasian.
Oh, poor guy.
It's awful.
That's so
yeah.
bad. It is. The whole thing is just so bad.
Yeah. The legality of his internment would be taken all the way to the Supreme Court in a landmark case, Korematsu versus U.S. So I might dig into that, too, a little bit. May 31st of 1942, Sam Snead won the PGA Championship. The only reason I kept that in there is like I don't nothing about golf. I had no idea there was a golfer named Sam Snead. I know Sam Snead as a guy on a Snoop Dogg album that goes, "My name is Sam Snead. You better recognize."
Okay. Well, now you
And
know.
then he gets in a fight with Snoop Dogg. Anyway, June 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of the Hitler and Mannerheim recording?
No.
There's a recording that you can listen to on YouTube. It's weird. It's all in German, so I don't know what he's saying, but
You should play a little of it.
It was made when Hitler paid a secret visit to Marshal Mannerheim, ostensibly to congratulate him on his 75th birthday.
Yeah.
The recording is the only existing one of Hitler speaking in an ordinary tone of voice.
Without
Yeah. Yeah. It's the only one where he's not screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
So,
Play a little of it.
yeah. It's I mean, it just sounds like two German guys talking in German. You can't understand it, but I could play a little bit of it.
But you're not going to.
I could.
35.000 Panzer. Wir haben zurzeit über 34.000 Panzer vernichtet. Wenn mir das jemand gesagt hätte, ich hätte gesagt, wenn mir ein General von mir erklärt hätte, dass hier ein Staat 35.000 Panzer...
What are they talking about?
So, it's funny how everybody who's German just sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I know.
So Hitler sounds exactly like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, so it was this big birthday shindig, right? And after the official greetings and speeches had taken place, Hitler and Mannerheim, accompanied by other German and Finnish officials, entered Mannerheim's private wagon for cigars, drinks, and lunch. In this wagon, a large and visible microphone had been set up by Thor Damon, a sound engineer for the Finnish broadcaster Yleisradio, who had been assigned to record Hitler's official speech and birthday message to Mannerheim. Mm-hmm. After the official speeches, Damon continued to record the now private conversation with Hitler, unaware that the conversation was still being recorded. Ooh. After 11 minutes, Hitler's SS guards realized what Damon was doing and made a cutthroat gesture to demand that he cease recording. The SS guards had demanded the tape be destroyed, but YLE was allowed to keep the tape in a sealed container with a promise that it never be opened again. I don't know why you would offer that, because of course it's going to be open. Right. The tape was given to the head of the state censor's office and made publicly available a few years later. It's the only known recording of him speaking in an unofficial tone and one of very few recordings in which he may be heard delivering a narrative without raising his voice.
Yeah.
I didn't see what they were even talking about, though.
Yeah.
I think they're just talking about general.
So
whatever.
It's not like a revealing conversation, or
I
it's
don't
not
think
like it's
so.
Okay.
I mean, it's got. If you look it up on YouTube, it's got subtitles.
It's translated.
Just blabbing about God knows what. I mean, I didn't read the whole thing, so maybe it is.
You probably would have heard about it.
Somebody would have heard about it. June 12th, a historical diary was received for a 13th birthday. Anne Frank received a diary on June 12th for her 13th birthday. Which became legendary. And then June 18th, on a Thursday, we have a Liverpudlian born, a singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and member of the Beatles,
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. And he's born on the same day. Could be twins, separated at birth. There's a good possibility these two are twins, separated at birth.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert, film critic Roger Ebert, was born on the same day as Paul McCartney in Urbana, Illinois, and they look exactly the same.
Yep, I think you're right about that.
They both have sex appeal. Every woman wants to sleep with Roger Ebert. Okay, and that brings us to June 20th, 1942. The comic book villain Two-Face made his first appearance in Detective Comics, issue number 66. Mm-hmm. And that's the same day Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys was born in Inglewood, California. And that brings us to Amy's fun murder story that I made her do.
Yes.
June 23rd, we're going to start with your thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Before we get to your story, let me just tell the listeners that the wait is over. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of NASCAR, is now live in North Carolina. That's right. Nothing but NASCAR listeners listening to American Timelines. Now you can legally bet on all your favorite sports anytime, anywhere, right here in North Carolina with DraftKings. North Kakalaki, baby. For a limited time, new customers who sign up with promo code QCPN and bet $5 will receive $250 instantly in bonus bets. That's promo code QCPN for Queen City Podcast Network. DraftKings has the best features, including same-game parlays, player props, and more with fast and easy payouts right at your fingertips. I actually made my first bet already on Gonzaga. I bet everything on Gonzaga. There was a whole bunch of parlays about I took the over, I took them to win, I take all this other stuff. So I'm excited to try it. And it was a free bet. I didn't put any money into this bet. Well, I deposited money, but then they gave me a free bet, so I'm using it. Very excited. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now using code QCPN and bet $5 to get $250 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code QCPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543. or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus, North Carolina only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook/NC. NASCAR is not a sponsor of this promotion and used under license. Take it away, you beautiful woman. What's that?
Woman's hair snipped by Phantom Barber. Mississippi, Pascagoula, Mississippi, June 23rd.
Ooh.
Pascagoula's Phantom Barber has ridden again. Mrs. H.E. Taylor reported 2 inches of her new permanent had been shorn by the strange shearer while she slept in a bedroom with her husband and 2 daughters.
Whoa.
I have a vague feeling of something passing over my face, Mrs. Taylor said, then woke up feeling ill. The tonsorial artist had broken through a window, cut her hair, and fled. Previous victims of the Phantom Barber, all within the last 10 days, were 3 little girls. Police believe he used chloroform and keep his subjects asleep while he snipped their locks.
Whoa.
So,
what?
So yeah, this is one of U.S. history's strangest crimes.
The Phantom Barber.
Phantom Barber
Okay.
of Pascagoula, Mississippi.
Pascagoula? Is that how you say it?
Yep, Pascagoula.
Okay.
And it was always young girls while they slept is who he would victimize. The first victims of the nighttime barber were Mary Evelyn Briggs and Edna Marie Heidel.
Oh, no.
Mary and Edna. The 2 shared a room in Our Lady of Victory's convent.
Oh, 2 nuns. He started with
Well,
nuns.
no, a lot of girls they had to go move to convents when they got knocked up and stuff.
Oh, knocked
So
up
who
and
knows?
stuff. Plus, it was 1942.
These were young girls, so
maybe their parents were both in the, maybe they only had a single parent and they were in the war or something.
could be, I don't know. But they woke in time to see a man crawling out the window. Mary Briggs was the only one who actually got a look at the intruder and described him as a kind of short, fat man.
Oh, I love short, fat guys.
She said she was awakened in the night and saw him bending over her with something shiny in his hand. He told her to shh and was fooling with her hair. That would really about send me.
Oh, wouldn't you just fucking
Oh,
panic?
my God. When she saw him, she yelled, awakening Heidel, and they watched the man jump out the window. Both girls were unharmed, but they were shocked to discover that each of them was missing a lock of hair. It was discovered that the bedroom window screen had been cut.
Did he take the hair with him?
Yeah. The next day, bloodhounds were brought to the convent, and they followed the trail of the intruder, but lost the scent at the edge of the woods. And then a few days later, the nighttime barber struck again. 6-year-old Carole Petey awoke to find much of her hair missing. Again, the bedroom window screen had been cut, just like at the convent. Her parents found a sandy footprint on a bed in the bedroom. 2 incidents of midnight break-ins, which resulted in hair cuttings, led people to become nervous and cautious. Residents started nailing the windows shut, since that seemed to be the way the Phantom entered the
At
home.
least he's not doing anything else to him.
These things tend to escalate.
Oh,
if
they
you
do?
if you
Uh-oh.
if
Is
you
that
have a
is that
memory of
preview?
my I'm not saying this one does, but I'm saying if you have a memory of any of my previous stories, they often begin with something weird like this.
And then they
or
turn
peeping
into
Toms,
awful rapey
or,
stuff.
Yes, and then
Yeesh.
that doesn't do it for you anymore, so you got to bump it up a notch till they're serial killers.
Yeah.
Just what did the Phantom Barber want with the hair anyway? Was he just a weirdo? Did he have a hair fetish? Or was it something more concerning, like was the hair being sent to Germany to be used as crosshairs in military guns and bomb sites? So then, quite suddenly...
So crosshairs are actually hairs?
No.
You just said, are they being used as
know.
crosshairs? That's just a thing? Like, maybe they really are. Maybe they use hairs in like a scope thing.
I don't know.
That's something I want to know. I'm going to do a whole episode just on crosshairs.
All right, so then his escapades went from bizarre to brutal. He broke into the home of Terrell Heidelberg and attacked him and his wife with an iron pipe.
What's the name?
Terrell,
Terrell?
Terrell, Terrell,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Terrell, probably?
Attacked him and his wife with an iron pipe. In the face of such violence, the search for the Phantom Barber increased then. So
Yeesh.
now the community was on edge.
So now he's hitting people with...
Community's in a panic. The attacks have escalated. Who would be next? Mrs. R.E. Taylor then had been awakened by a sickening smell which made her violently ill. Once she recovered, she realized her hair had been cut, and while she was grateful for not being injured during this attack, she was upset at the loss of her hair because she had just gotten a permanent, and
What was
now
the
a very
smell?
visible 2 inches was missing. The sickening smell is thought to have been chloroform, and that led to suspicions that the criminal used it to keep the young girls from waking up.
Oh, gotcha.
And the blackout conditions provided an opportunity for the sneaky thief to carry out his mayhem under the cover of darkness. And it also compelled law-abiding citizens of Pascagoula into changing their routines. Men refused to work the night shifts at Ingalls Shipyard, stating that they needed to be home to protect their families.
Yeah.
And that had a direct impact on production for the war effort.
Wow.
Women refused to go out at night. People started applying for firearm permits. The police were at a loss and offered a $300 reward, which is about $5,379 in today's money.
That's a lot of bucks.
At last, a suspect was found. A man named William Dolan,
Okay.
a 57-year-old German chemist.
Huh.
He was arrested and charged with attempted murder. Human hair was found near his home, and he had some disagreement with the Heidelbergs that gave him motive for the assault.
Oh.
So Dolan was charged with attempted murder on the Heidelbergs because he'd had a disagreement with Mr. Heidelberg's father, who was a judge. Police theorized that Dolan's disagreement with the judge was his motive for the assault on the Heidelbergs. And they also believe that he committed the nocturnal hair cuttings to impair the morale of war workers. I'm not sure.
Oh. Well, he was just trying to freak him out and
Yeah, I
shut
guess-
down the factories? I mean,
Yeah.
because he did.
Because he was called a Nazi saboteur.
Oh.
He was known for having German sympathies during a time when war hung heavily on the public mind.
Ooh.
Most
I mean,
are
he
happy
said he was
to-
a German chemist, right?
Yeah. Most were happy to see him arrested and slept soundly knowing the Phantom Barber was behind bars.
We didn't see any German internment camps
That's true.
because you can't tell
Germans apart.
Germans.
He would be ordered to stand trial for the attempted murder and would be found guilty and sentenced to 10 years in prison. At trial, the jury took only 3 hours to find him guilty, but he always maintained his innocence and was released early after passing a lie detector test. He was released early
Really?
after he passed a lie detector test.
Did the incident stop?
Yes.
Oh.
So he was never convicted of the haircuts. His name's going to be always associated with it. So once he was pardoned, Dolan and his family moved away from Pascagoula and settled in Waveland. But eventually he became frustrated and he signed over everything he had to his wife and disappeared.
Huh.
3 weeks after he went missing, a body was found in the Mississippi River near Chalmette, Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
Dolan's wife and stepdaughter took some friends with them to go claim the body. Even though there was no identification on the body, they all identified the body as being William Dolan. Mrs. Dolan was adamant it was her husband based on various scars and tattoos.
Yeah.
She claimed the body and buried it in the Cedar Rest Cemetery in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, in an unmarked grave, ignoring the fact that when she started to wash the clothes given to her by the mortuary, they were too big to be her husband's. Interestingly, before Mrs. Dolan claimed the body, the dead man's fingerprints were sent to the FBI for comparison with those taken from Dolan at Parchment Prison, and the prints did not match.
They didn't match.
No. So in
What?
April 1954,
Yeah.
the Hancock County Sheriff's Department received an inquiry from the FBI checking on the fingerprints of a man named William Dolan. The prints identified Dolan as having been arrested in Sacramento, California for vagrancy, but then released the next day. This William Dolan gave his age as 70, gave no next of kin, and never mentioned Mississippi. So who was this guy? Before he left Mississippi, Dolan had purchased an insurance policy and left it for his wife. Mrs. Dolan made a claim against the policy. However, after Dolan was arrested in California and questions arose about who was actually buried in Bay St. Louis, the insurance company refused to pay the claim. So it wasn't until a photo of the man arrested in California was compared with a known photo of Dolan that people realized the two men were one and the same. But they'd buried the wrong man. So what?
Who was the guy who died?
Right. So what about the Phantom Barber? Who was he?
Who was the barber? Yeah, was he the barber? I mean, he had to be the barber. He just stopped barbering.
I know. So he was eventually pardoned, but many believe he was indeed guilty. After all, he was German, he was an outsider, he was secretive about his life, and hair had been found at his home along with barber scissors. And after his arrest, there were no more hair cuttings, so it had to be him. But who really knows? There are so many unanswered questions.
It's crazy that he just stopped. Like,
Yeah.
you could just stop. Like, it sounds like if you do that,
I mean, somebody
was
maybe
he just
was,
having a mental thing?
or
You know?
maybe was somebody trying to set him up, or
Yeah, who knows?
who knows? But it could have been an act of sabotage. During the 1940s, German U-boats had been sighted in the Gulf of Mexico off the coast of Pascagoula. That, along with perpetual fear of Germany and what they might do on Mississippi soil so close to the shipyard, was something no one wanted to consider.
Yeah.
Perhaps the activities of the Phantom Barber were an attempt to scare residents into staying home and out of the shipyard, thereby halting the production of warships. One thing remained for sure: the real Phantom Barber was never identified. It's unlikely he's still alive, but maybe he continued to live out the rest of his life quietly in Pascagoula. but it will always remain a mystery unless somebody.
It's crazy that he just disappeared and left insurance for his family, just became a homeless vagrant, right? In
Right.
California? Like,
Yeah.
it seems like he'd be, and if he's a sympathizer, maybe he was connected to somebody against, in German or somewhere.
There was so much of that shit that going on.
So crazy. I mean, you didn't have the technology we have
Right.
now to follow people and know where everybody is.
Yeah.
Wow. Good job. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Phantom Barber. Let's finish up the year, shall we?
All
It's
right.
got a few touch points, couple deeper dives. We'll see. June 27th, 1942 was a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And White Rose was a nonviolent intellectual resistance group that first began its anti-Nazi activities in Munich. And I only want to consider, and this might be something I dive deep on, because I've never heard of anything in Germany that were anti-Nazi. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You don't hear, in your mind, you just hear, all of Germany was Nazis, and that was
Right.
it, and they were just evil, the whole
Yeah.
country. But
Or Jews. They were either Nazis or Jews.
yeah, Nazis or Jews. Yeah, right. But I came across on Wikipedia this group called the White Rose, nonviolent intellectual resistance group in Nazi Germany, which was led by 5 students and 1 professor at the University of Munich. Willy Graf, Kurt Huber, Christoph Probst, Alexander Schmorl, Hans Scholl, and Sophie Scholl. The group conducted an anonymous leaflet and graffiti campaign that called for active opposition to the Nazi regime. Their activities started in Munich on 27th of June, 1942, and they ended with the arrest of the core group by the Gestapo on February 18th, 1943. They, as well as other members and supporters of the group who carried on distributing the pamphlets, faced show trials by the Nazi People's Court, and many of them were imprisoned and executed.
Oh, man.
So I just want to talk about that just because I didn't know that even existed. So
Yeah.
I kind of maybe will look into that more if I can get enough for an episode. But didn't know that even existed. You don't hear about that really. I mean,
I'm sure it exists anywhere. There's a
there's
dictator.
always, but it just, it gets glossed over. July 3rd, 1942, the U.S. Army relaxed its draft standards to allow induction of selectees with physical deformities for limited military service. They're getting desperate here.
Yep.
And then July 9th, 1942, on a Thursday, we have a great birthday. Richard Arnold Roundtree born.
Oh.
You know who that is?
Yes. He was Shaft.
Yes, he was born in New Rochelle, New York, to John Roundtree and
Shut
Catherine
your mouth.
Watkins.
I'm just talking about Shaft.
I'm just talking about Shaft, Richard Roundtree. Yep. He attended New Rochelle High School, home of the Huguenots. And a notable alumni include Henry Heimlich, the guy who made the Heimlich maneuver.
Okay.
Now, you know that Heimlich and Shaft went to the same school. Anyway, he eventually dropped out of college in 1963 at Southern Illinois University to begin his acting career. He was a model for Salem Cigarettes, too. Did you know that, Richard Roundtree?
Yeah.
July 13th, 1942, we have another birthday. Born at the Swedish Covenant Hospital in Chicago, Illinois, Harrison Ford was born to radio actress Dorothy and advertising executive and former actor John William Christopher Ford.
Okay.
His mother was Jewish and his father was Irish. And Ford jokingly responded when somebody asked him, what religion were you born? And he said, Democrat. As a man, I've always felt Irish, and as an actor, I've always felt Jewish, he said. Harrison Ford, a little known thing about him, he was a Boy Scout. He achieved the second highest rank of Life Scout. And that is why he and Steven Spielberg decided to make Indiana Jones a Life Scout. That's why he's a big scout guy.
Oh.
Because of that. So how about that? He went to Maine East High School in Park Ridge, Illinois, home of the Blue Demons. Hillary Clinton went to the same school as Harrison Ford.
Oh.
Boom. Now you know
a lot
that.
of sparkling alumni there.
Yeah, can you imagine that?
No.
He did a lot in high school. His voice was the first student voice broadcast on his high school's new radio station. And he was kicked out of college for failing to complete a thesis on playwright Edward Albee. So there you go. He got kicked out of college 4 days before graduation. And then July 16th, a decree was published in Paris announcing that the nearest male relatives, brothers-in-law, and cousins of troublemakers above the age of 18 will be shot. All women relatives of the same degree of kinship will be condemned to forced labor. Children of less than 18 years old of all the above-mentioned persons will be placed in reform schools.
Jesus.
That's in Paris. So that's like the
Yeah.
Gestapo's really taken over.
Yeah.
July 28th, Spike Jones and the City Slickers recorded a humorous anti-Nazi song. called Der Führer's Face, making fun of Hitler. I've got that on here too. And it's I think it's good to know that.
Not the Superman, hey, pure Superman. Yeah, Mr. Superman, super duper Superman. Is this Nazi land so good? Would you leave it if you could? Yeah, this Nazi land is good. We would leave it if we could. We bring the world to order. Heil Hitler's world to order.
It's kind of making fun of
Yeah.
Hitler. So it's funny. That's funny too to me because you don't really hear about that happening, and it's dangerous to even think that somebody would make that because they could be killed. It's crazy. A man named Jose Gallardo Diaz was found unconscious and dying with 2 stab wounds on a road near a swimming hole in Commerce, California on August 2nd. He was rushed to the hospital but died shortly after. 17 Mexican-American youths were soon arrested in a case that came to be known as the Sleepy Lagoon murder. That might have to be a deep dive if I can convince you to do another separate one.
See if I can find anything
That
on
should be
it.
you, yeah. So I looked it up, and there's quite a bit on Wikipedia. So we might have to do a Sleepy Lagoon murder episode.
Yeah.
August 9th, the Walt Disney animated film Bambi had its world premiere in London.
Yes.
1942. It's that old. Can you believe that? On August 16th, a military blimp left San Francisco Bay on a routine submarine spotting mission. A few hours later, the airship wandered back over land and crashed with nobody on board.
What?
Life rafts and other gear had not been touched. To this day,
They don't know where it
the
happened to
two-man
them.
crew has never been found.
Oh my God, that's a mystery in the
That's a
moonlight.
mystery. I wish I could find more on that.
I know.
August 12th, movie star Clark Gable entered a U.S. Army recruiting station in Los Angeles and enlisted as a private at the age of 41.
Jeez.
Like I didn't give a fuck. August 22nd of 1942, Bambi has its U.S. release. And did you know that Bambi and Bambi 2 hold the record for the longest gap between movie sequels?
I didn't even know there was a Bambi 2.
Yeah, it came out in 2006. I
Oh.
didn't know there was either. Did you know that the original version of the famous painting Washington Crossing the Delaware was destroyed in an Allied bombing raid on Germany in 1942?
No.
September 5th.
Oh.
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
The original one has been destroyed. October 5th, the St. Louis Cardinals beat the New York Yankees 4-2 to win the World Series 4-1. St. Louis, your hometown.
Yeah, my old
That's
stomping
where
ground.
you're from. It's where you grew up, where you became a rabble-rouser.
That's right.
On Halloween, October 31st, a Christmas song became the number 1 on the Billboard charts. Can you believe this?
No.
On Halloween, October 31st. So I only bring this up because, well, it's White Christmas by Bing Crosby.
Oh, it's a movie. It was a movie that came out.
It was?
Yeah, White Christmas is a movie.
It
That's
is?
why that song. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I was going to say the whole thing, I was like, okay, it's not new that we start celebrating Christmas so early. Like everybody's like putting Christmas trees in the
Yeah.
stores on Halloween. Everybody's mad, but they did that then too, apparently.
Yeah.
Anyway, November 12th, Eddie Rickenbacker.
Nailed that.
November 12th, Eddie Rickenbacker and 5 others were rescued in the Pacific Ocean after being lost adrift at sea for 3 weeks. They had crashed in a B-17. The men had stayed alive on a diet of a few oranges retrieved from their plane when it went down, some fish they'd managed to catch, and a seagull that Rickenbacker had grabbed with his bare hands.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine that? 3
Yikes.
weeks?
How would you even eat a seagull? It's covered in feathers. You'd have to pluck it.
He had to
Ugh.
probably dismember it
Ew.
and eat it raw, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Ew.
But I bet it tasted delicious, as hungry as they must have been.
I don't know about that. I mean, he probably ate it, but I don't know how delicious it was going to be.
Okay, now we're going to get into this story about this another decorated seaman, 13-year-old seaman, Calvin Graham. According to Smithsonian Magazine, on November 14th, 1942, this story occurred. 13-year-old seaman Calvin Graham was decorated for valor in battle. That's how his mother learned where he had been and revealed his secret to the Navy. She told them he was 13. He was just 11 and in the 6th grade in Crockett, Texas, when he hatched his plan to lie about his age and join the Navy. One of 7 children living at home with an abusive stepfather, he and an older brother moved into a cheap rooming house to escape the stepfather, and Calvin supported himself by selling newspapers and delivering telegrams on weekends. That's while he's 11. And he did that after school, the telegrams also. Even though he moved out, his mother would occasionally visit, sometimes to simply sign his report cards at the end of the semester. The country was at war, however, and being around newspapers afforded the boy the opportunity to keep up on the events overseas. In those days, you could join up at 16 with your parents' consent, but they preferred 17, Graham later said. But he had no intention of waiting 5 more years. He began to shave at age 11, hoping it would somehow make him look older when he met with military recruiters. Then he lined up with some buddies, who all forged their mother's signature, and stole a notary stamp from a local hotel, and waited to enlist. At 5'2", and just 125 pounds, Graham dressed in older brother's clothes and fedora and practiced talking deep. What worried him most was not that an enlistment officer would spot the forged signature. It was the dentist who would peer into the mouths of potential recruits. He said, "I knew he'd know how young I was by my teeth," Graham recalled. I didn't know that's what they even did. He lined up behind a couple of guys he knew who were already 14 or 15, and when the dentist kept saying I was 12, I said I was 17. At last, Graham played his ace, telling the dentist that he knew for a fact that the boys in front of him weren't 17 yet, and the dentist had let them through. So finally, Graham recalled, he said, "He didn't have time to mess with me, and he let me go."
Yeah.
Graham maintained that the Navy knew he and the others in line that day were underage, but we were losing the war then, so they took 6 of us.
Yeah, they've taken everybody.
Yeah. Calvin Graham told his mother he's going to go visit relatives. Instead, he dropped out of 7th grade, shipped off to San Diego for basic training. 7th grade. Can you imagine?
No.
There, he said the drill instructors were aware of the underage recruits and often made him run extra miles and lug heavier packs. Graham was manning his gun. Now he's in the war. He was manning his gun on the USS South Dakota in the Naval Battle of Guadalcanal. When shrapnel tore through his jaw and mouth,
Oh, my God.
another hit him and knocked him down, and he fell through 3 stories of superstructure. Still, the 13-year-old made it to his feet, dazed and bleeding, and helped pull other crew members to safety, while others were thrown by force of the explosions, their bodies aflame into the Pacific.
Oh, my God.
He said, "I took belts off the dead and made tourniquets for the living and gave them cigarettes and encouraged them all night," Graham later said. "It was a long night. It aged me." The shrapnel had knocked out his front teeth, and he had flash burns from the hot guns, but he was fixed up with salve and a couple of stitches, he recalled. "I didn't do any complaining because half the ship was dead. It was a while before they worked on my mouth. In fact, the ship had casualties of 38 men killed and 60 wounded." Calvin Graham received a Bronze Star for distinguishing himself in combat. He's 13.
Oh, my God.
As well as a Purple Heart for his injuries, but he couldn't bask in glory with his fellow crewmen while their ship was being repaired because Graham's mother, reportedly, having recognized her son in newsreel footage, wrote the Navy, revealing the gunner's true age. So Graham returned to Texas and was thrown in a brig in Corpus Christi, Texas for almost 3 months for lying, even all that. Yeah. Meanwhile, so that's kind of the story of the baby vet.
That's kind of cool.
Once he got back home, he was treated as a celebrity, and reporters were eager to write his story.
So even though he was in the brig, he was treated as a
he
celebrity.
eventually was sent back. But when they got him out of jail, they just tossed him out with a suit and a few dollars in his pocket and no honorable discharge. But once he got home, he became this local celebrity, and when the war film Bombardier premiered at a local theater, the film star Pat O'Brien invited Graham to the stage to be saluted by the audience, but the attention quickly faded. At age 13, Graham tried to return to school, but he couldn't keep pace with the students his age, quickly dropped out. He married at age 14, became a father the following year, and found work as a welder in a Houston shipyard. Neither his job or his marriage lasted long. At 17 years old and divorced, and with no service record, he was about to be drafted when he enlisted in the Marine Corps. He soon broke his back in a fall, for which he received a 20% service-connected disability. The only work he could find after that was selling magazine subscriptions.
Oh, that's sad.
Poor guy. That's awful.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, then November 15th was the first issue of the Archie comic book in 1942.
Mm-hmm.
November 18th, a ghastly scene unfolded during dinner at Oregon State Hospital. Patients began dropping like flies after eating a batch of poisoned scrambled eggs.
Oh, no.
Vomiting blood and writhing on the floor in agony.
Oh, Jesus.
Some died within minutes.
What kind of poison?
Others succumbed hours later, 47 people in all. Officially, there were 263 cases.
Oh, my
Newspapers,
God.
however, reported that 400 others were sickened. So Governor Charles A. Sprague called it mass murder. Sabotage was initially suspected, but he thought it was a terrorist attack. But here's what really happened. The hospital, it could have been worse. They said the hospital housed an estimated 2,700 patients at that time, more than 5 times.
Well, they're not all going to be in the cafeteria at the same time.
Survivors and witnesses are long gone. First-hand accounts are limited to what can be found in newspaper archives and reports submitted to the Journal of the American Medical Association by 3 doctors, 2 from the hospital, 1 from Oregon State Police Crime Lab in Portland. And Dr. William L. Lidbeck, a pathologist, was one of those doctors. He was on call and living in a cottage on the hospital campus. He was one of the first to respond to this awful scene. When he arrived, patients were suffering extreme nausea and abdominal cramping. Many were vomiting blood, having seizures, struggling to breathe. Others were experiencing paralysis. He presumed those who ate the most eggs would have died the quickest. For others, death would have been prolonged. The tiny morgue of the hospital could handle only the first few victims. Before the night was over, shrouded bodies were crammed into the chapel and lined up in hallways.
Jesus.
More might have died if not for the discerning taste buds of some patients and the heroic actions of one staff member. Many patients put their spoons down after complaining the eggs tasted salty or soapy and experienced immediate symptoms. One survivor, only able to whisper through lips swollen and blue, described it this way in the Daily Capital Journal. My face became numb. My teeth began to ache. Pretty soon, my legs became paralyzed.
Oh, Jesus.
Nurse Allie Wassel took one bite of the eggs after dinner trays were brought to her ward, and the taste was so off she refused to let her patients eat them.
Oh, so she saved a
And
bunch
Wassel,
of people.
she became ill but survived and was credited with saving many lives by her actions. And so, looking into it, was it intentional? Accidental? The investigation was swift, considering the rudimentary technology that would have been available. This happened long before email, cell phones,
They just do
equipment
an
would be.
autopsy on one of the people that died.
Autopsies were done on 6 patients. Samples from the cooked eggs and stomach contents were sent to the lab in Portland. Bits of eggs, both from the plates of patients and from the hospital's unused supply, were fed to rats. Those fed the cooked eggs died within a few minutes. Surplus eggs were tested up and down the coast. Within 22 hours, according to the report submitted by Lidbeck and his colleagues, the poison was identified as sodium fluoride and was found only in cooked eggs at Oregon State Hospital.
How did that get there?
So, sodium fluoride is commonly used in insecticides and in rat and cockroach poisons.
Ooh, God.
It's a quick-acting white substance that might easily be mistaken for flour, baking powder, or powdered milk. Ingesting a minuscule amount can be fatal.
Oh, my God.
How did it get in the eggs? The story unraveled when the hospital's assistant cook stepped forward with a confession. He had sent one of the patients to a basement storeroom for powdered milk, and the patient mistakenly brought back roach poison that was mixed in the scrambled eggs.
Jesus.
Yeah. Isn't that awful?
That's
George Nosen
terrible.
is the one who did it. And he had admitted himself to Oregon State Hospital in the summer of 1942. He was 27, a paranoid schizophrenic, and assigned kitchen work detail. He was the one sent to the basement and unknowingly scooped up roach powder inside of powdered milk.
Oh, man.
Yeah, isn't that awful?
Yes.
Ugh.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Anyway, on November 20th, President Joe Biden, the 46th President of the United States,
He was born.
and 47th Vice President of the United States, was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. November 26th was a Thursday. The romantic drama film Casablanca, starring Humphrey
Bogart and Ingrid
Bogart
Bergman.
and Ingrid Bergman, and with Paul Henride, premiered at the Hollywood Theater in New York City. And November 27th was Friday, and Jimi Hendrix was born. Seattle, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
You love him.
Mm-hmm.
November 28th, the Coconut Grove fire in Boston. Over 400 people died because the doors opened inward of this nightclub.
Oh, no.
And this prompted the regulation that all doors in a public building must now open outward.
Oh, that's a trivia.
Coast Guardsman Cliff Johnson survived the Coconut Grove nightclub fire with third-degree burns over 55% of his body.
Oh, Jesus, just kill me.
And he became, at that time, the most severely burned person ever to survive his injuries.
That's been passed over by now.
But 14 years later, he burned to death in a fiery crash. Yeah, a car crash.
Oh, no.
Isn't that crazy?
That's terrible.
Poor guy.
Holy shit.
Come on. And November 29th, coffee rationing began in the U.S., and that's where I would draw the line. Sorry. I'm
not doing that.
I'm not. I need my coffee. December 5th, did you know that, have you ever heard of something called a Luton bus?
No.
Anything that is in a horror film, it's a build-up followed by a fake scare.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a thing, a convention. In a horror film, it's called a Luton bus, named after a scene in Val Luton's 1942 horror film Cat People. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
You've seen Cat People?
No,
Oh.
they remade it.
Oh, they did?
In the 80s. And I still didn't see it. I just remember it. I remember the commercials for it because I was
We
a
should
kid.
watch it. I want to see a 1942 film, Cat People. I bet it's creepy as hell. It's 1942.
I bet it's dumb.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The film tells the story of Irina Dubrovna, a newly married Serbian fashion illustrator obsessed with the idea that she is descended from an ancient tribe of cat people who metamorphose into Black Panthers when aroused.
Jeez.
When her husband begins to show interest in one of his coworkers, Irina begins to stalk her. The film stars Simone Simon as Irina. It features Kent Smith, Tom Conway, and Jane Randolph in supporting roles.
Mm-hmm.
And then on December 13th, the last thing I have is that the Washington Redskins defeated the Chicago Bears 14-6 in the NFL championship game played at Griffith Stadium in Washington, D.C.
All right.
And that covers 1942. And then, except for the things we're going to try to take a deep dive on to give you a break in time to find a murder for 1943.
All right. Well, it's time to get out of here, Chuck Berry.
Is it good to be back with the listeners?
Yeah, it was fun.
Did you miss the listeners?
Of course.
Oh.
Uh-oh, I heard a car door.
Uh-oh. Cops are here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
dogs.
dogs are barking, so that's time to end the episode.
Yes.
Thanks for listening,
Thank you,
Time
everybody.
Heads. We love you, and
love
yeah.
Don't try her, man, 'cause she dead. She take the laser beam and cut like that. Driving through your life like a Buick. Take you the wrong way home just to watch you scrub. She'll leave you inside out with a stutter. She'll introduce you to a breast milk brother. And you'll be crying for your uncle or mother. Before she turns you over to kiss your wounds. And when she shakes her hips, past the west.
Matt Truman Ego Trip is the greatest band of all time. Buy their music.